All right, Jimmy, Ott and Paul Stone talking college football with you every Tuesday and Thursday here on the College Sports Rush YouTube channel. Tuesday, we look at the high volume games, the ranked matchups, the big ones that most people are watching and most people want to have a little action on. Our best bets are on Thursday. Let's get right to it, Paul. And well, look at this right out the chute. It's not scripted. Paul's got one side, I got the other. Let's go mano a mano here. Oklahoma and Ole Miss. Oklahoma is 4.5 now in 54 at Bet Rivers. Oklahoma, number one in the country in yards per play defense, number three in scoring defense versus an Ole Miss offense that's number 9 in the country in yards per play offense. Reason why I use the yards per play is because pace of play varies so much more in college football than the NFL. So I think it's more of an accurate depiction of the strength of the offense. Will you have strength versus strength? How about this? Lane Kiffin doesn't shy away from throwing a little extra logs on the fire, huh? I mean, they're talking about Venables and saying they're really good at stealing signs. Yes, I mean, I told Hugh Freeze that, hey, man, I mean, you might want to change your signs. I mean, you got safeties crashing on slant patterns. That's not exactly common in football. So, how about Ole Miss at Athens? And somehow, some way, squeezed out that Georgia pick. You got to be fair with yourself. That was a fortunate cover in Georgia. Boy, these fortunate covers. See us next week in the Florida game. So we'll be on the Gators in that one. But anyway, how about Ole Miss? It's been a long time. I don't ever remember going between the hedges in your first 5 possessions. Touchdown, 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 touchdown. 5 touchdowns. And then it came to a screeching halt. And then it was 3 and out, and a 4 and out because they went for it on fourth down to end the game. So reminded me of that Rose Bowl, that semifinal game between Georgia and Oklahoma. Baker Mayfield and the Oklahoma Sooners, they had a lot of success running the ball. And finally, Georgia got off of sort of their zone coverage and got to man and put an extra guy in the box. This is what they did here and got in man coverage and tried to tighten it up. They're playing a little bit more umbrella. And a young quarterback making his first SEC road start in Chambliss, he was fine being patient and taking it. He's very good. But boy, Paul, I don't know if I remember a game that was just 5 straight touchdown drives. This one like off of turnovers, 15-yard drives and things like that. And then 3 straight 3 and out slash 4 and outs. I just think Ole Miss in their biggest weakness this year in as opposed to, well, every year minus last year at Ole Miss under Lane Kiffin is their rush defense. And Oklahoma's running offense got a little bit something going against South Carolina last week. Mateer getting a little bit more healthy after the Texas game where she clearly probably hurt the team more than he helped them. But I know you have Ole Miss, but I'm taking the Sooners at home here because I know that they'll be able to rush the football against Ole Miss. And I think Ole Miss, when they have the ball, they're going to score some. They're going to have some stops. But I want to see back-to-back road games, and that took a lot out of. That was a lot of energy exhausted between the hedges. I got Oklahoma, Paul. I say to my case, you got Ole Miss.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the loser, Jimmy, of this SEC showdown there in Norman, not going to be out of the playoff chase, but with 2 losses and only 4 games still remaining, the loser will certainly face an uphill climb. So I think both teams are going to bring the kitchen sink, if you will. Ole Miss, they won their opening 6 games of the season against a fairly friendly schedule before losing on the road, as you pointed out, at Georgia, 43-35. The Rebels actually led by 2 scores, 35-26, entering the fourth quarter. And you also alluded to their offense, which went AWOL in the fourth quarter. 13 yards of offense on 11 plays in the game's final 15 minutes for the Rebels. So that offense just kind of shut it down, and Georgia's defense stiffened. Meanwhile, Oklahoma, on the other hand, 1 week after losing to Texas in the Red River rivalry, they traveled to South Carolina, defeated the Gamecocks 26-7 in that game. That Oklahoma defense that you spoke of, 6 sacks and 13 tackles for loss. They are active. They do get in the backfield. Got a really good front 7 there for the Sooners. And one thing that concerns me a little bit, and you mentioned John Mateer, he had the right thumb surgery, obviously, back on September 24th, only missed a single game. He's played in the last 2 games for the Sooners. as we mentioned, against both Texas and South Carolina. And granted, before I give these numbers, Texas has one of the nation's top defenses in the country. South Carolina, not bad, probably middle of the road by SEC standards. But Mateer's numbers in these last two games, to me, suggest that thumb is affecting his performance somewhat. His yards per attempt in the last two games, passing attempt is only 5.6 yards per attempt. He had 3 interceptions against Texas, didn't have any interceptions this past week against South Carolina, but only 1 passing touchdown in the last 2 games. And after rushing for a total of 190 yards in his first 4 games, Mateer has 22 carries for 19 yards in the last 2 against Texas and South Carolina. And in the spirit of full transparency, the Longhorns, they sacked Mateer 5 times, and those yards do come off of his rushing total in college football. So that certainly, doesn't really tell the whole story. And again, Texas, a great defense. And again, he's limited somewhat. That offense is probably not quite as prolific as they felt coming into the year. So it's not just all on John Mateer, but I do think he's playing at something less than 100%. And I think based on what they have behind him, John Mateer is at 80% is better than the other options that they have available. So hopefully he'll continue to get healthier and healthier as the season progresses. I think this is another one of those SEC games that's going to go down to the wire, perhaps down to the final possession, be a 1-score type game. I'm going to take Ole Miss to try to avoid back-to-back losses. The Rebels plus 4.5 over Oklahoma there in Norman.
Yeah, there's no doubt Mateer is playing at a lower level. The numbers indicate that. I just think he might be getting a little bit better. We'll see. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen the backup quarterback play. No, there's a reason they're trying to forward play Mateer less than 100%. So, and Paul, you alluded to something that is, it's unreal in the SEC this year because college football's been a lot about the haves and have-nots forever until this year. And look, when you win the games like this at Indiana and in Nashville, people going to get fired. And a lot of other people going to get fired. So, I mean, the numbers and the buyouts, it's just unreal when they have to pay the players now as well. But, I mean, just 1-score game after 1-score game after 1-score game. I mean, Kentucky, who probably the weakest team and the weakest looking forward for the next 5 years or so, they out first down Texas 26-8, where nobody has a bigger advantage in roster building than the University of Texas right now. I mean, just yes, I know it's after the Red River rivalry. I get that. That's a letdown spot historically where they have a chance, but this is unbelievable in the SEC this year. Constant games, one after the next, 1-score games. Players who place a qualifying same game parlay of at least $10 on eligible college or NFL football games will receive 1 standard entry into the weekly Squares game. Winning standard squares will be awarded a prize of a $20 bonus bet. See the app or a website for more details. Neither of us have a pick on this one, but it's one of the hottest brands. I mean, there is Nouveau Riche, and then Nouveau Riche. At the Balco lab in the Bay Area. I mean, my goodness, Indiana. Who has the most wins in college football history? That's Michigan. Who has the most losses? That's Indiana. That's tough of a job. So we see what the Indiana did and say, oh, you can get him, but it's going to cost you a lot more. Signetti, and we both thought that he would stay, and it looks like he will. This line is now up to 25 and 54.5. UCLA, 4th game as the interim coach, 3-1 there. Third 3 games with Jerry Neuheisel calling plays. Coach Rick Neuheisel's son was a tight ends coach who, after 1 game as an interim coach, he was elevated to play caller. Role reversal here. We talked about Ole Miss, 5 straight touchdown drives, then 3 straight 3 and 4 or 4 and outs. This is different from UCLA. UCLA had gotten really good jumps on Penn State, 10-0 before Penn State touched the ball. I mean, 24-7, 24 straight. I mean, scored on the first 9 possessions till they punted at the end against Michigan State. This was different. This was 7-3 until Nico throws a pick 6. And so they finished with 412 yards. It's 10-7 Maryland. Half of the yardage for the UCLA Bruins in the final quarter. They did little to nothing. Actually, gave the other team as many points as they scored. And then it was an 80-yard touchdown drive, a field goal drive, a game winner. So 200 yards on their last 3 plays to, again, continue this winning streak. Now they go to Bloomington, Indiana, where Fernando is co-favorite to win the Heisman Trophy right now. And he's also flying up the draft boards. He's one of the co-favorites to be the number 1 overall pick in this next April's draft. Indiana 25 and 54.5. Paul, any thoughts on this matchup?
From a betting perspective, really not. I mean, this UCLA program, first of all, left for dead, I guess you could say, after firing its head coach, Deshaun Foster. But now the Bruins in the midst of an unlikely 3-game winning streak, which included the victory a couple of weeks ago as a 24.5-point home underdog to Penn State, a victory that essentially ended James Franklin's tenure there in State College. But as nice as that winning streak is for UCLA and the story of Tim Skipper, the interim head coach, and Jerry Neuheisel, the young beach blonde son of Rick Neuheisel, calling the plays.
They're wearing the wigs now at the games. Yes,
former UCLA backup quarterback, and it's a great story. But I just don't think Kirk Cignetti's the type of guy who's really captivated by this feel-good story there in Los Angeles, their turnaround. But I'm not wanting to lay 24.5. The price to play poker with Cignetti and the Hoosiers is getting high. So I'm not going to lay the 24.5. But on the other hand, Cignetti's 14-6 against the spread since he took over there in Bloomington prior to the start of the 2024 season. So I don't want to get in front of that bus either. So this is a hard pass for me, but it'll be interesting to see, what UCLA has left in the tank facing, one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the country.
Paul, the 25 where it is right now at Bet Rivers is interesting because the game in Bloomington last week against Michigan State, the game was on 25. 35-10, Indiana leading with 1:56 to go, 4th and 1 from the Michigan State 14. I've got Michigan State plus 26.5. Please go for it, get it, but don't score a touchdown and then take a knee. 4th and 1, they kick a field goal to put it over the number at 38-10. The backup quarterback, as he did earlier this year, Milivojevic, drives them right down the field, but they lose a couple of yards. It's 4th and 12 for Michigan State at the Indiana 16. They kick a field goal to backdoor it. So, 25 is kind of a key number. So it's right on that 25. That was the margin of victory. And listen, when you put your money down, you got to be big boys about this sometimes. Yes, when coaches do something that's not in their best interest to lose them a game outright. Yeah, that's warrant for criticism. But man, when it comes to this kind of crap and covering the spread and who knows what the point spread is and who doesn't, James Franklin was as good as anybody on it, tacking it on when they can. We saw a couple of Friday nights ago, South Florida against Charlotte, going up tempo of 21 with less than a minute to go so they could score and cover the spread. So you got to live and die with these late decisions that come around the spread. And more with sports gambling coming mainstream, you see the coaches talk about the spread. So anyway, don't forget at Bet Rivers, again, the players who place a qualifying same-game parlay of at least $10 on eligible college or NCAA football games will receive one standard entry into the weekly Squares game. Winning standard Squares will be awarded a prize of a $20 bonus bet. See app and website for more details. Brought to you by our friends over at Bet Rivers. All right, Paul, let's get to the next one and stay in the SEC and talk about the Vanderbilt Commodores team that beat the LSU Tigers. Vandy was 3. It's now 2.5 and 52.5. 2.5, 52.5 over Missouri. So game day will be in Nashville. So strength versus strength. The Vanderbilt offense, number 5 in the country in yards per play against the Missouri defense. What we think about Drinkowitz being an offensive coach a little bit. Defense and number 8 in yards per play defense. And this Diego Pavia, he he made plays from the pocket. He broke containment. He made plays up the middle. He eluded tacklers. I mean, rushers to buy time to extend plays. He runs the option. He runs this. He also the intangible. He brings a fighting spirit to this team that is I have not seen at that program. He's done the impossible of lifting this program to where they are right now. Signetti at Indiana, Diego Pavia at Vanderbilt. So look, they were outnumbered again. They had more LSU fans in Vanderbilt at that game. How about that too? Boy, two teams that are low pace of play, but neither team punted till the fourth quarter in Vanderbilt's win over Missouri. And the only thing that may have been a little bit not a little bit the story, behind the box score, and the final score, it could have been a little bit worse maybe for LSU in that game against Vanderbilt because some of their plays were kind of broken plays, a little bit fortunate, a little bit lucky type of plays. But running the football, when you outrush a team by 139 yards and you got the best player on the field, you're going to win. I don't care if you're an underdog or a little Cinderella, whatever you are. 2.5, 52.5 at home against Missouri. Missouri escaped. Auburn figuring out a way to lose again on the Plains, 0-4 now in the league, Paul.
Yeah, ESPN's College Game Day, Jimmy, coming to Nashville for the second time in the show's history Saturday when Vanderbilt hosts Missouri in this key SEC game. Game Day previously in Nashville back in 2008, and 19th ranked Vandy upset 13th ranked Auburn 14-13 that day as a 4-point home underdog. It was the first Saturday in October. Vanderbilt's season, for whatever it's worth, kind of went off the rails after that victory. But boy, the Commodores are rolling this last season and a half under their head coach Clark Lee and the quarterback play of Diego Pavia. Looking at this Missouri team, they kind of waltzed out to a 5-0 start there in September against a quite manageable schedule, to put it kindly. They have split, though, the last couple of weeks, a pair of hotly contested games. They first of all fell at home 27-24 to Alabama, and then, as you mentioned, rallied to defeat Auburn 23-17 this past weekend in double overtime. That was their first road game of the season. Now the Tigers going to be traveling for the second straight week, going to Nashville to do battle with Diego Pavia and the Commodores. One of the advantages, and this is not a great revelation on my point, but one of the advantages and kind of the key component of my handicap here, a check mark that goes on Vanderbilt's side of the ledger, if you will, is at the critical quarterback position. And I give Pavia a healthy edge over Missouri's first-year starting quarterback, Bo Pribula, the transfer from Penn State. Pribula, in those last two games, as the competition's kind of stiffened, he threw 2 interceptions against Alabama. He threw 2 interceptions this past weekend against Auburn. Missouri in both those games, -1 in the turnover battle, pretty much due to Pribula's interceptions, 4 interceptions in those 2 games. Again, you got a Missouri team. They're off back-to-back games that went down to the final minute. They're on the road for the second straight week. I think Vanderbilt going to be energized by the presence of game day, the atmosphere that it creates. I think everybody's going to be, just highly motivated, energized, and whatever you want to call it, the Diego Pavia magic, the Diego Pavia effect. It's real. I mean, this guy's just he's a guy who makes everybody around him better. I think even on the other side of the ball, he is the leader of the march there in Nashville. The Commodores 14-6 against the spread the last season and a half since Pavia arrived from New Mexico State. Give me Vanderbilt -2.5. They beat Missouri by a field goal or more this Saturday in Nashville.
Longtime contributor of the Gold Sheet and a friend of our show, and is a contributor on a podcast here before as well. A weekly participant for 30 plus years. I'm Bruce Marshall. We know Bruce very well. He's a great historian. We got to do some digging, Paul, because since Pavia as a starter at Las Cruces and at Nashville against the spread is unbelievable. I mean, it is just unbelievable. Did you see the interview with Game Day live on the field as he's warming up before? He says, "What do you think about them? You being a favorite now?" He says, "I guess Vegas got tired of losing money on it." So, I mean, he's just got a toughness and instinct. He plays hard. I'm a little surprised he has held up physically to this point with how he plays and sort of his reckless, but and it's part of what makes him him. So, but he is it is just unbelievable. But keep in mind, New Mexico State, when he went there, him and Jerry Kill, probably the worst team in FBS. I don't know, it might have been 128 at the time. It's now 136. But man, his ATS number is unbelievable. Log into your Bet Rivers app or your betrivers.com account each week to opt into a 3-pack of college football profit boosts, including a live boost, the same game parlay boost, and a boost to use however you please. See the app or website for more details. So maybe Missouri living on a little borrowed time, maybe kind of got escaped the Plains, and give Auburn's fan base credit, man. They bring it, even being 0-3 going into that game in the league. A team that I think is living on a little borrowed time as well, the BYU Cougars. So they probably should have lost in Tucson against Arizona. Pulled one out the hat against Colorado up in Boulder. And then they were underdog. Oh, we had that one right. Took the points at home and even got a better number closer to game time. Chalk early, dogs late. Iowa State is a 3-point home favorite at 49 against BYU. And I just think that also, man, you watch that game and that's a rivalry, man. It's a different kind of rivalry, the Holy War in Utah, but there was a lot of emotion in that ball game, a lot left on the table. And look, Bachmeier boy, he's a tough guy. He's going to be quite a player in the future, just a freshman over at BYU. But man, with all of that being said, going into Ames, where it's traditionally a tough place to play, Iowa State usually a little better against the run than I would like in this matchup because certainly Bachmeier trusts his legs more than his arm at this point. So I think against a well-coached team in Campbell at Iowa State, it's going to be this is a brutally tough spot for BYU. BYU in that really competitive Big 12 sits atop the board right now with Texas Tech losing and being undefeated right now. But I just don't think it's going to last. So I think it finally catches up with the Cougars. I'm going to take Iowa State minus the 3. Was 2.5 yesterday. Chalk early, dogs late. Iowa minus 3. Iowa State minus 3 at home against BYU. We talk about, the rivalry game. We mentioned Texas already. That's not going to happen every week. Them getting out first down by Kentucky 26-8, being out doubled in yardage. But you could tell Texas brought it that game. And they usually do in that Red River rivalry. Similar type of emotionally low on the tank spot here for the BYU Cougars, Paul.
Yeah, the Holy War, and we talked about it last week. The BYU Utah game, it's as intense as any rivalry in the country, and I mean any rivalry. Period. It's isolated to maybe the state of Utah and people in the Rocky Mountain area of the country, but man, that is an intense rivalry. So it will be interesting to see how they bounce back because situationally and otherwise, this spot strongly favors two-loss and unranked Iowa State over undefeated and 10th ranked, at least by the coaches, BYU. And you look at the Cougars, you mentioned their 7-0 start, just a great story behind their true freshman quarterback, Bear Bachmeier, a guy who actually began the calendar year 2025 as a member of the Stanford Cardinal. When their coach was fired, Bachmeier started looking for another school, ended up at BYU towards the end of spring practice there in late March. So here he is wearing number 47 for the BYU Cougars. But while most pollsters maybe have BYU climbing up the ladder, so to speak, the power rating guys like myself, well, not so much. I've got BYU currently, even though they're undefeated, and this is because the schedule ranked 55th by one publication, and the fact that they've had 3 really close calls. I've got BYU ranked number 26 in my power ratings. And I know a lot of people will say, man, that is way too low. You don't know what you're doing. But just for comparison's sake, MIT alum and famed statistician Jeff Sagrin, well, I've got BYU at 26. Sagrin's got BYU at 29. So he has them a few spots lower than I do. This is an interesting matchup. Iowa State. The thing that kind of keeps me off the Cyclones here is the fact that their two cornerbacks, John Tez Williams and Jeremiah Cooper, they're both out for the season. They've missed 2 games. Teams have been able to throw the ball on them a little bit. And I know BYU is not a team that's going to throw it 40 times a game, but that still concerns me a little bit here, especially with the number now having grown to 3. But as you indicated, this is just a tremendously favorable spot and situation for Iowa State.
All right, let's move on back to the SEC and A&M and LSU. A&M still undefeated and going into Tiger Stadium as a favorite. This number back in the summertime was about 5.5, 6. For LSU was the favorite back then, but A&M fringe top 25 team entering the season has won some close games and they're good. One of the big stories is their quarterback. He has improved. We know he can run, but man, he is really throwing the ball with more accuracy and touch, especially the deep ball. Really does a nice job of putting some air under the ball when he goes downfield. Marcel Reed. On the other hand, guy that was preseason first or second to be the first pick overall in the draft, and Garrett Nussmeier, he's been hurt for a lot of the season, and it's affected him. And all of the transfer portal additions that the LSU Tigers made, the most concerning part was that offensive line, and it has been a problem. He's getting beat up, injured already, but taking a beating over the course of the season as well. But when LSU, everybody's got the chips all down. Sometimes at night, 6:45 local time kickoff. Yeah, this could be very interesting. Don't look for a routine win by the Aggies in this one. A&M 2.5, 47.5. This went down from 49, the total, Paul. And you had the under the LSU Vandy game. I bet it myself as well. I liked it a lot. It's a team with Division One LSU come under the total by at least 14.5 points in every game, as much as 27 and a half. But they didn't punt until the fourth quarter. But now after LSU just snapped the ball 49 times on Saturday in Nashville, 136 FCS Division One teams. LSU in snaps per game is 136, dead last. 3 snaps a game fewer than 135 North Carolina. That's 21 snaps cushion the slowest paced team in college football. I know that's part of your handicap. Vandy and LSU came in 118 and 124 pace of play last year. Paul, you're looking at this total again at 47.5.
Yeah, first of all, you mentioned Marcel Reed, Texas A&M's quarterback, and he has made a great jump from his first half season last year as the starter to this year being the Aggies' full-time starter. He kind of maybe didn't make his name, but he had a good game last year against LSU. I think the Aggies were trailing at halftime, and he came in, rallied A&M to the victory over LSU, basically with his legs, not really with his arm. But for whatever that's worth, he played well last year against the Tigers. I'm looking at this total, the underside. First of all, LSU's offensive troubles have been well chronicled. They average only 20.5 points per game this season against FBS opponents to rank 101st nationally in scoring offense, only averaged 340.7 yards per game, ranked 98th nationally in total offense. And now to kind of exacerbate LSU's offensive woes, the Tigers starting left tackle Tyree Adams, he suffered a ankle injury in the first quarter of last weekend's loss to Vanderbilt. He's going to miss a good chunk of time. Redshirt sophomore DJ Chester came in Tyree Adams' absence. He played the rest of the game. Struggled, to put it mildly. He allowed 3 pressures, a hit, and a sack in 22 pass blocking attempts, according to Pro Football Focus. I'm assuming that Adams will probably start at left tackle again. Obviously, that left tackle position critically important in college football, or any level of football for that matter, because you're protecting the blind side of your right-handed quarterbacks. And Garrett Nussmeier, of course, is right-handed. And like you mentioned, Nussmeier has been pretty much running for his life much of the season. And now you got to face a Texas A&M team. They do a lot of things well. And I don't think people are necessarily sleeping on the Aggies. I know guys like you and I who follow it extensively certainly aren't. But Texas A&M is a team that can win the national championship. I mean, this is a wide open year. And to say that might sound a little bit odd to some people, but they just don't have any they don't throw the ball maybe downfield vertically as well as some of the top teams, but they do a lot of things good. And one of the things they really do well is rush the passer. They average 3.6 sacks per game. They've got 25 sacks on the year in their first 7 games. Their main guy rushing the passer is Cassius Howell, who might be one of the best pass rushers. Well, is one of the best pass rushers in all of college football. The transfer from Bowling Green. He has 8 sacks on the season so far this year. And between his 2 seasons at Bowling Green, his 1.5 seasons thus far at Texas A&M, he has 23 and a half career sacks. So I think he is going to be a load for LSU to handle on Saturday night there at Tiger Stadium. So we've talked about LSU's offense. I think they're going to have some trouble. I think A&M is going to put some heat on Nussmeier. But as pedestrian as that offense has been for most of the season, LSU's defense, they could keep. And you're talking about, funny things happen when you start talking about a team and they don't have a chance and this, that, and the other, and they're playing at night in a venue like Tiger Stadium there at Death Valley. Funny things tend to happen. And this defense is going to have to keep them in the game. If they're going to win, obviously, this game needs to stay in the low 20s. It can't get in the high 20s or above. This is an A&M team. Their running back still their running game still pretty good, but they're going to be without Le'Veon Moss in this game. He suffered an ankle injury a couple of weeks ago in the victory over Florida. They're hoping perhaps to get him back towards the end of the regular season or maybe the playoffs. But, man, A&M's going against a really good LSU defense. They only allow 15.3 points per game against FBS foes. They rank 7th nationally in scoring defense, only give up 4.7 yards per play. So this is a really good defense again for LSU. They have played at a slow tempo all year, which you alluded to, only averaging a little over 61 plays a game against FBS opponents. Again, doesn't want to get in a track meet against the Texas A&M Aggies. They want to kind of muck it up. They want to make it a rock fight. They want to turn it into a physical football game. That's their best path to victory, and I think they'll play that way. I like this game to go under the total of 47.5 there at Bet Rivers.
Yeah, in Vanderbilt and Ole Miss are better offenses than South Carolina and Florida. Although Florida has moved the ball on some teams, but on the road, LSU is and throughout Southeastern the group of or the FCS team. They've given up about 22 points a game on the road. At home, they've given up 9 points a game. So that crowd at night, we'll see. Got to keep them in early, or they'll hit the road on you if they're not into it. But interesting. It'll be a fun matchup. Should be a good atmosphere. Is sour as the purple and gold fan base is right now with their head coach buyout Brian Kelly. All right, let's get to the final pick this week, and Memphis and South Florida. And talking about the G6 teams, who's going to be that G6 qualifier for the college football playoff? These are certainly two of the main candidates. South Florida coming on the scene early with the upsets against Boise State and Florida. Yeah, no crime losing on the road against Miami. Memphis with their upset of Arkansas, get their coach fired, and so Memphis goes to UAB the week before this game, and Chris Mortensen's kid takes over interim coach for the fired Trent Dilfer, and they pull off the upset with a goal line stance at the end. Just multiple chances from the 1 yard line for the Memphis Tigers, could not get it done. This time last week, Memphis was a 3-point favorite. Now they're catching 5. That is way too drastic right now for the and listen, when you lose, and Nick Saban even said that. He talked about Miami in their Friday night loss. He said, no, they needed to lose. And sometimes when you lose, you listen to your coaches a little bit more. You get a little bit more refocused, and your pride is on the line a little bit as well. I love that actually Memphis lost last week, and this line moves so much. I think there's a tremendous value. I think these two teams are very even. Give me the +5, Memphis +5 against South Florida, home dog in this critical G6 matchup, Paul.
Yeah, I actually made South Florida a 2.5-point favorite here in this game. Opened on Sunday, USF -3 at least some sports books. Now up to a 5-point road favorite, as you mentioned there, Bet Rivers. The reasons for the South Florida love, I think, are threefold. First of all, Man, they're a really good football team, especially when Byron Brown, he's had injury issues throughout his career, but he has been healthy throughout the 2025 season. This is a big guy, their quarterback, 6'3", in that 230, 240 range, really packs a punch, doesn't mind lowering the boom on an opposing defender. And then, secondly, I think the Bulls' demolition of North Texas a couple of Fridays ago, 63-36. A lot of us were watching that game. And the fact we can kind of still see it's kind of burned on our brain seeing South Florida just move the ball at will down the field against North Texas. So I think that has a little bit to do with it. And then certainly the inexplicable loss by UAB this past weekend, or by Memphis rather, this past weekend at UAB, 31-24 as a 23.5 point away favorite. Didn't see that one coming. But I believe, as you do, we're seeing a lot of overreaction here. I'm not sure that I want to get on Memphis at this point. If it gets to 6, I'm certainly going to start considering it. But after that upset that you mentioned earlier this year by Memphis of Arkansas, 32-31, they were a 7-point home underdog in that game. Memphis now 11-3 against the spread as a home underdog at the Liberty Bowl since 2015. So they have thrived in similar situations when getting points at home. So it's going to be Memphis or nothing. I'm going to try to be patient. If 6 does pop up, I'll probably get aboard and back the Tigers as well over the Bulls.
You mentioned Byram Brown with an M, Byram, and he has this is waited his turn in Tampa, South Florida. The 6'3", 232-pound quarterback from Raleigh, North Carolina. I hadn't seen a quarterback who, no, you said he doesn't mind lowering his shoulder. He looks for contact in the secondary. He wants, one time he's going across the goal line against Boise State, man. And I mean, he's almost in the goal. Well, no, he went and found a guy to finish to get some contact on the way. No, he loves some contact, but be a little careful with that. Should be a lot of points, a lot of fun. And again, home dog, and like you talk about, they have been it's a good spot for them in this one. Something about those teams, man, when they, the down and out, kind of they rally sometimes. Some never recover. We do it every Tuesday and Thursday here on the College Sports Rush YouTube channel. For Paul Stone, I'm Jimmy Ott. This is College Sports Rush YouTube channel brought to you by our friends at Bet Rivers.